All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my friend Amanda Marcotte. Amanda is an author, a writer, a blogger. She is the host of Reality Cast at RH Reality Check. Her work has been seen in Slate, Salon, Alternate, and many more. She is the writer of the Pandagon column at Raw Story, which you can find at rawstory.com. You can also, of course, find her on Twitter at Amanda Marcotte. Amanda, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Amanda, let's start out with the kind of sick and disgusting story of Patrick Moran, who is the congressman of the son of Congressman Jim Moran. And if people haven't actually heard the story, just lay down what exactly happened, because I think most people have heard about it, but maybe not everyone has. What exactly did Patrick Moran do?
So he pled guilty last week to beating his girlfriend. This is not particularly controversial that he did it. The police report puts two witnesses at the scene who saw him do it. They were in Columbia Heights, the Columbia Heights area of D.C., and they were at a bar drinking. They got in an argument. They were out on the street, and he took the back of her head and bashed her face into a metal trash can.
Wow.
It broke her nose. It caused a fracture on her eye socket, so basically a skull fracture. She was taken from the scene. The police report said that two officers actually saw him attack her. She was taken to the ER, and the police report only said that she confirmed that had been dating for about 6 months. They said nothing in the police report about her denying that he attacked her. This is critical because after he pled guilty, the victim recanted and said that he didn't attack her, that she tripped and fell. And this is something that people need to be on the lookout for because as anyone who has ever done any domestic violence activism or has worked in a prosecutor's office or any of this can tell you, it's really common for victims to recant after the fact.
Right.
In fact, it's so common that it's rare if the victim doesn't recant. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So
the reasons, I mean, like obviously they're getting one they're a victim already. They're in a bad situation where they're being abused, and then like there's pressure sometimes from the additional pressure from the abuser, all types of possible shame issues that they might have, just like a feeling how could I be a victim in this situation, and so I'm going to recant it. There's a lot of horrific psychological reasons for that to actually happen.
yeah, and I think it's worth remembering that the victim tends to love her attacker, and thus is very easy to be leaned on with, like, you don't want me to go to jail, et cetera, right?
Right.
And of course, this particular victim is also clearly is under political pressure too. So, I mean, I can't even imagine going up against a congressman in that.
Yeah, right. It's very very much like reeks of a bad movie or television show, but it's actually happening. Actually, this is actually going on right now. This isn't bad television. This is bad life.
Yes. Yeah, and the most stunning thing about it is that he's so viciously attacked her a mere 6 months into the relationship. Usually abusers take a little bit more time to escalate, but clearly not always.
Yeah. I mean, so this guy's clearly a winner, right? Beating a woman at 6 months. He's that much of a catch that he feels that he can assault his girlfriend at less than half a year. Which again, usually that's the 1 year mark is when the anniversary time of when the abuse should kick in.
Yeah, it's it's fun to make fun of it, but the fact of the matter is, there is evidence that shows that abusers are very attuned to how much they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And so often abuse will escalate after they've obtained some sort of commitment from their victim, which is like, so abuse often escalates after you get married, or if you've had a baby, or you're pregnant. All situations where the calculus of how expensive and troublesome it will be for you to leave is changed dramatically.
their lives are actually intertwined, if they're living together or something like that, that is when, you know, the kind of codependency also makes it much harder for people to leave if something horrible actually happens.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay, so he pled guilty, but it appears that he's going to be getting off fairly easily. So what's the actual deal with what this man's actually going to what kind of consequences he's actually going to pay?
He's going on probation. I don't think he's not going to see any jail time, and I don't think the probation is very long. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of like anger management class attached to it. I want to put a word of warning out there that the evidence that anger management is effective on domestic violence is pretty slim. So it's something the courts sort of do because it sounds good, but I don't think it's a very effective strategy for preventing abuse.
And his father, the congressman, he actually, you know, is quoted saying, "I hope that their privacy will be respected. They look forward to putting this embarrassing situation behind them." That, however, you know, obviously, you know, violence and assault is actually not really a private situation, and it's not exactly. I guess it's sort of embarrassing to him, but it's also a tragic and violent crime that happened here. It's not just like, oops, you wore a bad color, you got a bad haircut, I'm embarrassed. No, this is an actual crime that happened here.
Yeah, so I wrote a piece for the American Prospect where I explained that Representative Jim Moran is basically going through the checklist of ways to minimize and deny domestic violence.
Right.
And like calling it a private matter, this is something that a lot of people tend to believe, which is sort of baffling to me. It's like if I'm walking down the street and some dude jumps out of the bushes and bashes my head against a trash can, nobody would deny that this is a public problem. But if I'd had sex with him before, all of a sudden it's a private matter.
Right.
Same crime, same location. I mean, come on. I mean, this just seems like asinine, but, you know, it just goes to show how normalized, sadly, domestic violence is and how much we're willing to put up with if we just sort of think of it as like the way men are controlling their women. And I think that should bother everybody very deeply. You know, it's not, and when you call it embarrassing, you kind of imply that there's like fault to spread around for the incident. You know, but what are you saying really when you say there's fault to spread around? Yeah, he hit her, but she yelled at him? I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah.
You're basically saying that, like, the punishment, you're kind of implying that the punishment for being uppity is beatings for women. I mean, nobody really will come out and say that, but it's certainly, you can read between the lines, and that's what you can glean from those kinds of statements.